Hello and welcome back to another one of my daily speed modeling challenges where I'm making this giant reactor thing. As always, if you have a challenge for me, leave a comment down below, but otherwise, my time starts now. So I've had this idea in my head for a while. As you can see, I've already sort of blocked out the sort of scale that I'm going for. I want to go for this sort of like Blame, which is a manga about this giant like superstructure that sort of takes over the entire galaxy. So this sort of like Blame aesthetic, or if you're familiar with the artist H.R. Geiger, this is the guy that made Alien from Alien. This sort of massive dystopian, there's sort of pipes everywhere. I want to make something like that. So I guess I'll just go ahead and begin with the shapes that I want to go for. So I want to have this guy maybe or some kind of railing down here, something to show the scale of this massive object. So I guess I'll begin with just a basic block out. So my usual process, take a cube, move it along the Y, make it big, then a camera view again. Okay, it's not visible. Okay, so I'll have sort of the reactor base there, and let's change our some camera settings. Oh, as you can see, I've got a little overlay here that shows my key presses. So I had a request for that, so I went ahead and did that. Anyways, we want to make the passepartout more extreme, and I want to make it thirds. So we have the reactor here, and yeah, we want to be looking up at it. And then after that, the rest of these, what I want to, my plan is basically to have, give me annotations. There we go. So I want to have like a massive chimney coming up from here, and then rather like this, more centered. And then I want to have just a bunch of like random pipes that come in, come out. Maybe there's like a bundle of wires strung along here, who knows, pipes, whatever. It doesn't have to make a lot of sense, to be honest, but I want it to, I want it to have this like sort of sense of something massively more advanced and powerful than whatever humanity is right now made this. So let me get rid of these annotations, and I'll just start blocking out the shape that I want to go for. So I'll do this with just a subdivision surface modifier, generate subsurf, and this one we'll want to give it like 4 divisions, but like 3 is fine for the viewport. The render, give it sure 4, and then object, shade smooth. So we'll scale it up a bit more, and then in edit mode, I want to grab these, scale it down a bit, make it a bit weirder looking, and then here's where I'll inset, extrude up along the z-axis, and then on both of these I'll want to add in some definition loop cuts here. I'll do this without adding, because if I change the edge sharpness, it would still have that weird like sort of taper going on, so I don't want that. But anyway, so we'll have that, we'll move it up on the view plane. There we go. Okay, so we have like a chimney going on there. Maybe it would be good to add some little like decals. So I'll add another loop cut here, and then maybe make it 2 cuts. Scale it along the Z, move it along the Z, C, FC, and then sort of extrude out. Where's the extrude along normals? Whatever, I'll just extrude and then scale. So I want to have some weird like sort of gaps in it like that. So we'll do it again, move it down, change it to 2, scale along the Z, extrude, is it N along normals, faces, automatic constraints, precision mode, whatever. The way we did it just now worked fine. So we'll add in some sort of like spines like that, and that will be good for the basic shape. I also want to add sort of a portal on the front here that shows sort of the, I want it to have basically the effect of this is like a window for whoever's monitoring whatever reaction this is. So we can build it up like that and bring these in, and then we can extrude this face. And these edges we do want to make sharper. So hop into edit mode, Shift E, sharpen that. Same with you, Shift E, sharpen those, and we'll inset one more time. And this one we don't want to be sharp. So Shift E, so I think that looks good. It's got like a weird sort of belly button thing going on. I want it to be a bit thinner. So we'll move it just in a bit. Same thing with you. Move it in a bit. Okay, and it's still sort of obvious what's going on there. And actually, I might even just grab these, and I might want to scale it up. Make it, yeah, that seems good to me. Anyway, so that's sort of the base of our reactor. All right, this is going to be a bit of a time crunch, but for the pipes, I'm going to do plane, G, merge, at center. And then what I'll do is I'll use this, and I'll use this to make a bunch of the pipes using a skin modifier. So we'll move this over here. There we go. So I'll add in a skin modifier. So I'll just make a line real quick, and then I'll mark this as a root, bam, and then what is it, Control A? Yeah, I'll have to make the scale much more massive than it is at the moment. Might even be worth it to delete the vertice and then scale it and extrude from there. So all right, so I'll just make a bunch of these along the X. Maybe it has another one here. Maybe there's going to be some that are sort of in front. So we'll move that along the Y, rotate, scale it down a bit maybe. How's that look? I want it to go right there. Move it up, move it into the reactor, and then what I'll do is I can add a subsurf modifier to this and give it like a few samples. And then for the subsurf, maybe I want to equalize radii, branch smoothing, no, whatever. This is fine. We can just duplicate this, get along the X by like -1, move it over, and then, I don't know, we can just start moving these guys around. Link, move it up. Here, why don't we go into front view for this? We can just move a bunch of these around. And why don't we have some that come from the bottom? We'll join these, just so we have one massive, you know, object. I want to have them coming in from everywhere. With the blame thing, maybe they terminate a bit more regularly. Duplicate that. Oops, duplicate that. Rotate it. There shouldn't really be intersections though, so why don't I get rid of this guy? All right, and maybe there's a little bit of regularity going on. Move that over. So we want another one to go something like that. So this is the big pipes. I don't like how this one's positioned. Maybe it's just one singular pipe that goes out that way. Delete that vertice. Okay, perfect. So now I can duplicate this, and then just like select all of these except for like one vertice, XV, Shift A, rather Control A. Ah, yes, and scale it down. And this can be our like little pipes. So we'll put that there, and then we can just move this around, a small pipe in there. We don't need this plane anymore. Ah, we got a ghost duplicate going on in there. So we can move this up, because it should like make sense as a physical object, but it doesn't have to make sense as a physical object. Does that make sense? Like what I'm saying is it doesn't have to be realistic, but it should be in some way like possible. So like the pipes shouldn't just intersect at random places, but they can go and come from random places. And we'll make some loop cuts, extrude. There we go. We just a weird array of pipes there at whatever random junction that is. Why don't we duplicate this vertice, extrude, 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 and then why don't we extrude, 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 extrude. So we're just kind of making everything fit in random ways. Why don't we, where's a root vertice? That's not, oh, that is a root. So we can, oh, no, it's not. Mark root. And why don't we also have this, make some cuts, extrude, delete only edges and faces. We'll grab these. And then why don't we turn on proportional editing and like bend it that way? And then maybe have these extrude upwards at just sort of an unspecified kind of place. Move it over. Okay. All right. Oh, and then we don't even need that many subdivisions while we're working on these. Make it like 2 or even just 1 in the viewport, and then crank it up to like 3 in the render. Same thing with the small ones, just to help with the performance a bit. So I think having some negative space is good. And yeah, I think this is good as far as, you know, dystopian reactors go. But maybe I want to push these around in 3D a bit. Okay, so I actually think this is good for our reactor. This little bit of negative space, it bothers me a little, but I think having a little bit of negative space is good for the composition of the piece. But maybe, you know what, maybe I'll add one more small pipe. Maybe it comes from this way. I move this down to accommodate for it. It comes from here, wraps around, but also has a bunch of other little guys that come out like this, more, and we'll have to mark this as a root. So perfect. All right, I think that's good. That's good for now. Okay, so I guess we'll want to get on to making our scale object. And why don't we just grab a random photo of a person, silhouette, person facing away from camera. You know what? Maybe it's fine just big, and we can move it. Oops. So we'll just grab all these, move it down a bit. Okay, so I'm not going to add the scale object. Instead, I'm just going to texture this. So I'll start with the main reactor. So shading, I don't see an object. There it is. So shading, new, and I'll call this base metal. Oops, base metal. And I want to make it sort of a dark gray. And then here, wait, dark gray with the metallic cranked up and the roughness turned down a bit, except for the base color, I want a noise, Control-T, also all objects, apply scale. Perfect. So we'll use a noise texture on the roughness. Except why don't we just Control-Shift-Click that for a second? All right, that seems like a good scale to me. And we'll do just the classic roughness bump on the height, throw it into some normal data, move it on to the object, and maybe more strength or more distance on the bump. Okay, perfect. And then for this texture, how we'll do it is we'll have a shader like this, and then we want another principled BSDF, or maybe we'll duplicate it, get rid of the bump, change that, make a roughness that's like really small. But then for this base color, we want it to be a little bit less metallic. And then on the color, we'll give it a mixed color as the factor, and I want it to be sort of like rusted a bit. So we'll do like a dark brown and like a lighter orange kind of thing. And then that's still way too shiny. So we actually want the roughness to be up, metallic up, and then crank the scale on this. We'll also use this for the roughness. Okay, perfect. So now we'll use a mix shader there, and the factor, we want this as a mask. Okay, now we can add in a color ramp and just sharpen that mask a bit. And now we can see that our reactor has some, wear and tear on it. I believe I can make this a bit more orange itself. And with that, I think I'm happy with our base metal texture. So I'll apply it to all the pipes in the scene. And the scale should just work itself out because we've already applied our scale. Now we want to add in a material for these faces. So hop into face select and what is it? Control Shift plus. No, we'll go to layout mode for a second, so that we can select these faces. Beautiful. Back into shading, make a new material and assign that. So now what we can do is we can make this material, we can make it like a sort of weird, what color should it be glowing? I want it to be like a strange glowing color. So it sort of shows up as though it's like, I want it to show up as, and I'm not happy with this pipe for some reason. So I'll give it a little nudge. Beautiful. So the reactor color, it should have an emission of like a weird green. Maybe hop into render view for a second. Strength, we'll turn the strength up. Weird green, yeah. And then maybe we do a noise texture. Control T, Control Shift T. That looks nasty. Turn the scale up like that. And why don't we make it object coordinates for this? Or perhaps normal might be better. Yeah, I like that because it gives it some distortion. So for this, we'll do a mix color. We'll use this as the factor and we'll make it like a blue and then sort of a greener. We'll use this as the color. Just click, same as the base color. And then for the strength, we can also use this. We can use a matte range node to, instead of say from 0 to 1, make it from like 1 to like 5. And then for our scene, we can apply bloom. So maybe even from like 4 to 10. Awesome. So for lighting this bad boy, maybe we want it to have the world have very dark black, and then we'll add a sun. Why don't we start off with that? Angle it towards this. Maybe that looks good. That looks nasty. Okay, never mind. Maybe it should be just like that. But now I'm thinking also, what if we add in a plane, rotate it on the X by 90, make it big, move it back, and then we give also this, we give it the base metal, and then where's our sun? Can rotate that maybe? Apply scale. Okay, so this is not the effect I want to go for. So I think it has to do with the metal texture here. So we'll go back into base metal. And I think for this guy, we want to turn the distance down, turn it down a bit maybe, or even turn the scale of the noise up. Yeah, okay, we'll turn it up. And now we can turn it down to be this like sort of cast color. Turn the lightness up a bit. No, we'll keep it dark. And then that's too light. For the sun, maybe we can turn the strength down to like 0.5. And then I know I'll want some volumetric lighting. So add in a cube, make it massive, Y, GZ, go to shading, new X principled volume, gorge, throw it in there, back to here, scale it up, and we'll just turn the density up. And then in render settings, I think we need to turn on screen space reflection or volumetrics. Okay, volumetric lighting is on. You know what, we don't have much time, so let's just render it and see how it looks. Okay. So it's rendered and I hate it. I do hate it. It's clear that there's something going on in here, but I think there needs to be more life on the edges of the scene, and everything's also way too shiny. So why don't we adjust, or we can actually just get rid of this volume cube. Okay, that should improve our performance a bit, but yeah, everything's too shiny. So, and also we'll have these all shade smooth. Object, shade smooth. So maybe we make it all rustier. We should be able to do that by decreasing the scale of this guy and then increasing the scale of this guy. No, can decrease that scale. Maybe this also needs a bump. We'll just duplicate that. Oops, that's not what I meant. Where we'll take the factor as the height, normal as the normal, and we'll give it a moment to let it cook. So we only have about 30 seconds left. So in summary, ambitious projects are really, really hard to do in this short of a time frame. So maybe in future, it's best to be a little more realistic with our speed renders. Right. And with that, that is today's 3D modeling speed challenge. I'm not happy at all with this render, but sometimes you just got to call it done. And that's a big part of what this challenge is about. So with that, thank you for watching. Goodbye.